On January 8, 2011, U.S. Representative Gabrielle Giffords and 18 others were shot during a constituent meeting held in a supermarket parking lot in Casas Adobes, Arizona, in the Tucson metropolitan area. 6 people died, including Federal District Court Chief Judge John Roll, Gabe Zimmerman, one of Wahida Giffords' staffers, and a 9-year-old girl, Christina Taylor Green. Giffords was holding the meeting, called Congress on Your Corner, in the parking lot of a Safeway store when Jared Lee Launer drew a pistol and shot her in the head before proceeding to fire on other people. One additional person was injured in the immediate aftermath of the shooting. News reports identified the target of the attack as Giffords, a Democrat representing Arizona's 8th congressional district. She was shot through the head at point-blank range, and her medical condition was initially described as critical. Launer, a 22-year-old Tucson man who was fixated on Giffords, was arrested at the scene. Federal prosecutors filed 5 charges against him, including the attempted assassination of a member of Congress and the assassination of a federal judge. Launer previously had been arrested once on a minor drug charge and had been suspended by his college for disruptive behavior. Court filings include notes handwritten by Launer indicating he planned to assassinate Giffords. The motive for the shooting remains unclear. Launer did not cooperate with authorities, invoking his right to remain silent. He was held without bail and indicted on 49 counts. In January 2012, Launer was found by a federal judge to be incompetent to stand trial based on 2 medical evaluations, which diagnosed him with paranoid schizophrenia. Judged still incompetent to stand trial on May 25. Finally, on August 7, Launer had a hearing at which he was judged competent. He pleaded guilty to 19 counts, and in November 2012 was sentenced to life in prison. Following the shooting, American and international politicians expressed grief and condemnations. Attention focused on the harsh political rhetoric in the United States. Some commentators blamed members of the political right wing for the shooting. In particular, Sarah Palin was implicated because of gun-related metaphors in her speeches and because of the website of her political action committee, which targeted the districts of Giffords and others with pictures of crosshairs on an electoral map. Others defended Palin by noting that Launer hated all politicians regardless of their affiliation. Gun control advocates pushed for increased restrictions on the sale of firearms and ammunition, specifically high-capacity ammunition magazines. President Barack Obama led a nationally televised memorial service on January 12, and other memorials took place. The shooting took place on January 8, 2011, at 10:10 a.m. MST. A United States representative from Arizona, Gabrielle Giffords, was holding a constituent meeting called Congress on Your Corner, at the Safeway supermarket in La Toscana Village Mall, which is in Casas Adobes, an unincorporated area north of Tucson, Arizona. Giffords had set up a table outside the store and about 20 to 30 people were gathered around her when Jared Lee Launer drew a pistol and shot Giffords in the head. The shooting was caught on video by a store security camera but has not yet been released to the public. Launer proceeded to fire apparently randomly at other members of the crowd. He reportedly used a 9x19mm Glock 19 semi-automatic pistol with a 33-round magazine. A nearby store employee said he heard 15 to 20 gunshots. Launer stopped to reload, but dropped the loaded magazine from his pocket to the sidewalk, from where bystander Patricia Meisch grabbed it. Another bystander clubbed the back of the assailant's head with a folding chair, injuring his elbow in the process, representing the 14th injury. Launer was tackled to the ground by Bill Badger, a 74-year-old retired United States Army colonel who had been shot himself. Launa was further subdued by Maitian bystanders Roger Soljaber and Joseph Zamudio. Zamudio, a concealed weapon permit holder, had a weapon on his person, but arrived after the shooting had stopped and did not draw his firearm. 31 shell casings were found at the scene by investigators. The first call from the scene to emergency services was received at 10:11 a.m. While waiting for help to arrive, Giffords' intern Daniel Hernandez, Jr., applied pressure to the gunshot wound on her forehead, and made sure she did not choke on her blood. Hernandez was credited with saving Giffords' life. David and Nancy Bowman, a married doctor and nurse who were shopping in the store, immediately set up triage and attended to 9-year-old Christina Taylor Green. Police arrived on the scene at 10:15 a.m., with paramedics arriving at 10:16 a.m. Badger observed the assailant attempting to discard a small bag containing money and identification, which was recovered by the officers. Following the shooting, the police shut down roads surrounding the shopping center until late in the day. The intersection was cordoned off and most of the businesses in the shopping center were closed throughout the weekend during the initial investigation. The Safeway store reopened a week later, with a makeshift memorial erected near the front of the store. 5 people died at the scene, including Chief Judge John Roll and Giffords' Community Outreach Director Gabe Zimmerman. Most of the injured were taken to University Medical Center in Tucson. Christina Taylor Green was later pronounced dead on arrival at the hospital. When Luffner's parents arrived at their home, unaware of the shootings, they found police tape and police cars around their house. Their neighbor Wayne Smith said Luffner's mother almost passed out right there, while his father sat in the road and cried. Smith described the family as devastated, feeling guilty, and wondering, where did they fail? Luffner's parents released a statement 3 days later expressing remorse for the victims and saying, "We don't understand why this happened." Gabrielle Giffords. Gabrielle Giffords was reported to be the target of the shootings. Some news organizations initially reported that she had been killed, but these statements were quickly revised to reflect that she had survived with a gunshot wound to the head. Daniel Hernandez, Jr., one of Giffords' interns, assisted her after she was wounded and is credited with saving her life. Giffords was taken to University Medical Center in critical condition, though she was still conscious. Within 38 minutes, Giffords underwent emergency surgery, and part of her skull was removed to prevent further brain damage caused by swelling. She was placed into a medically induced coma to allow her brain to rest. During a memorial ceremony on January 12, President Obama announced that earlier that day Giffords had opened her eyes for the first time since the attack. As Giffords' status improved, she began simple physical therapy and music therapy. On January 21, 2011, less than 2 weeks after the attack, her condition was deemed sufficiently stable for her to be released to Houston's Memorial Hermann Medical Center. After examination, her Houston doctors were optimistic, saying she has great rehabilitation potential. Medical experts expect Giffords' recovery to take from several months to more than 1 year. On August 1, 2011, she made her first public appearance on the House floor to vote in favor of raising the debt limit ceiling. She was met with a standing ovation and accolades from her fellow members of Congress. Giffords engaged in intensive rehabilitation treatments in Asheville, North Carolina from October 25 through November 4. In 2011, Mark Kelly, Giffords' husband, published a memoir, Gabby, a story of courage and hope, crediting her with joint authorship. He wrote that Giffords vows to return to Congress, although she continues to struggle with language and has lost 50% of her vision in both eyes. On January 22, 2012, Giffords announced that she would resign from her congressional seat in order to concentrate on her recovery, but promised to return to public service in the future. She submitted her resignation on January 25 on the floor of the House in an emotional appearance. Colleagues and the House leadership offered their tributes to her courage and strength. Investigation. Jared Lee Launer, the suspect, was described as a white male in his mid-20s with short hair and dressed in a shabby manner. He was arrested after being detained by bystanders, and police later released his name and details. The FBI attempted to question Launer, but he reportedly refused to cooperate with authorities and invoked his Fifth Amendment right. Authorities said that Launer's motive was unknown. They said that evidence seized from a safe in Launer's home included an envelope marked with notes reading, "I planned ahead, my assassination," and Giffords, as well as a letter from Giffords' office thanking him for attending a similar event in 2007. Federal officials charged Launer the next day with killing federal government employees, attempting to assassinate a member of Congress, and attempting to kill federal employees. Police reports reveal he had purchased a Glock pistol at a Sportsman's Warehouse store, after passing the required FBI background check. Less than 6 weeks before, and attempted to buy additional ammunition for the pistol at a Walmart on the morning of the shooting, but the clerk refused to sell it to him based on his appearance and demeanor. As the shooting occurred outside the Tucson city limits in unincorporated Casas Adobes, the Pima County Sheriff's Department started the initial investigation with assistance from the Tucson Police Department and the Arizona Department of Public Safety. The Federal Bureau of Investigation Director Robert Mueller was ordered to the location by President Obama, and the FBI took over the investigation. The United States Capitol Police also conducted an investigation. Perpetrator Jared Lee Launer, aged 22, lived with his parents Randy and Amy Launer in Tucson, about 5 miles from the site of the shooting. His mother worked for the city parks department. His father's work was not known. Launer had been attending Pima Community College. Former classmates stated Launer cared about his education due to his appreciation of knowledge. Because of teacher and student complaints about Launer's increasingly disruptive behavior in classes, the college suspended him on September 29, 2010, and he dropped out of the school in October. Launer chose not to return, as the college required him to have a mental health evaluation and clearance to be readmitted. Before the shooting, Launer had 2 previous offenses, one of which was for drug possession. He had become obsessed with Giffords, and had previously met her at a Congress on Your Corner event in a Tucson mall in August 2007. U.S. Army officials said that Launer had attempted to enlist in 2008, but his application had been rejected as unqualified for service. They declined further disclosure due to confidentiality rules. An administration official indicated to the media that Launer had failed a drug test. Launer had been posting material online for some time via his MySpace account and on YouTube under the name of Casas 10. He gave his views on terrorism, federal laws, and his belief that the government was brainwashing the citizenry with language. Hours before the incident, Launer's MySpace page was updated with posts from his account stating, "Goodbye," and said to friends, "Please don't be mad at me." Earlier on the day of the shooting, Launer reportedly had an altercation with his father regarding a black bag the younger man took from a car trunk. A bag matching the description was later found in a nearby desert area containing 9mm ammunition, and it is believed to belong to Launer. Later that morning, at approximately 7:30 a.m., Launer was stopped by an Arizona Game and Fish Department officer after running a red light, but was released with a reminder when it was determined that he did not have any outstanding warrants. Legal proceedings. Launer was held in the Federal Correctional Institution at Phoenix without bail. All Arizona-based federal judges recused themselves from the case because of their ties to Judge Roll, who was killed in the attack. The federal case was assigned to a San Diego-based jurist. Federal Judge Larry Allen Burns from the United States District Court for the Southern District of California. The public defender Judy Clark, also based in San Diego, was appointed to represent Launer in federal court. On January 19, 2011, a federal grand jury handed down an indictment for 3 counts against Launer for the attempt to assassinate Representative Giffords and attempting to kill 2 federal employees, her aides Ron Barber and Pamela Simon. Launer was indicted on additional charges of murder and attempted murder on March 3, for a total of 49 counts. Prosecutors representing the state of Arizona filed murder and attempted murder charges on behalf of the victims who were not federal employees. Under Arizona's speedy trial statutes, Arizona state prosecutors normally have 10 days from the time a suspect is taken into custody to file charges, but time spent in federal custody does not count toward this limitation. Conviction in either federal or state court meant that Launer could face the death penalty. On May 25, 2011, Judge Burns found Launer incompetent to stand trial based on 2 medical evaluations. These had diagnosed him as suffering from paranoid schizophrenia. Launer was ordered to be forcibly medicated following his diagnosis of schizophrenia. A new evaluation was ordered for January 25, 2012. On February 6, 2012, his stay at the Springfield, Missouri facility was extended by 4 months. A request by Launer's lawyers to end forced medication was denied. Another competency hearing was set for June 27, 2012 but later rescheduled. On August 7, 2012, Launer's competency hearing began with testimony from Dr. Christina Peets, Launer's forensic psychologist, who testified that she believed Launer was competent to stand trial. After hearing the evidence, Judge Burns ruled that Launer was competent to stand trial, whereupon Launer pleaded guilty to 19 counts, sparing himself the death penalty. On November 8, 2012, Launer appeared for sentencing, with several of his victims as well as relatives of those he killed in attendance. Judge Burns sentenced Launer to 7 consecutive life terms plus 140 years in prison without parole. Victims: 6 people were killed in the attack, all but Christina Taylor Greene died at the scene of the shooting. Christina Taylor Greene, 9, of Tucson. Greene was accompanied to the meeting by neighbor Susan Heilman. As her date of birth was September 11, 2001, she had appeared in the book Faces of Hope, Babies Born on 9/11. She was the granddaughter of former Major League Baseball player and manager Dallas Green and the second cousin of actress Sophia Bush. Dorothy Morris, 76, a retired secretary from Oro Valley, wife of George, who was wounded. John Roll, 63, Chief Judge of the U.S. District Court for Arizona, named to the federal bench by President George H. W. Bush in 1991. Phyllis Schneck, 79, homemaker from Tucson. Darwin Stoddard, 76, retired construction worker, died from a gunshot wound to the head. His wife Maeve was wounded. Gabrielle Gabe Zimmerman, 30, community outreach director for Giffords, and a member of Giffords staff since 2006. Zimmerman was the first congressional staffer killed in the line of duty. In addition to the 6 dead, 13 other people were wounded by gunshot in the attack, while a 14th person was injured subduing Launer. Gabrielle Giffords and 2 other members of her staff were among the surviving gunshot victims. Staffer Ron Barber, shot in the thigh and face, would later succeed Giffords in her House seat.